for apologies. I understand we've got Mary who's away again, holidays. Yeah. I've got no urgent items of business, declarations of interest. I've got to declare one for Dragonfly, that's item number 12. The item 4 on the agenda is minutes. You can find these on page 4 through to 10. Are you all happy that?
Councillor McGregor move them as a true record.
Councillor Peake, second.
So you think all words add up and everything's okay? All right. All in favour of that? That's carried. Move on to item 5. Sandra's approached me and asked for this one to be withdrawn. She's not satisfied with the report as yet. So are you all happy that that's been removed? Any dissent? There's no dissent, that's removed. Item 6, procurement strategy, and that's Clive.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, for that. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, it's a fairly short report, but it is a very important report, I think, at the end of the day. And you look at the report details, it does say, procurement strategies is how we get the goods, works and services achieved by, by the council's contract procurement rules. It has to comply with certain policies and legislation, and they're listed under 1.2 for Bribery Act, Equality Act, so forth. And we'll review the strategy again in December 2024, unless there's any changes, that we have to make prior to that within it all. So I'm not really going to say much other than, report is attached there to it all. And I think it's good that you read it and have a look through it all, because procurement's quite a, important part of a process of getting goods and services at a decent price. And not only that, we do go out and we do procure for other authorities as well, which brings us a little bit of revenue in. So all in all, it's good. It's been set out, it's tidied up, it's in line, and recommendations are on page 32. There's just one of them. Take any questions. Other than that, I'll move the recommendation, Chair.
All right, thanks, Clive. It is a balancing act, isn't it, between wanting to do things in your community and also doing the right thing as well. I understand. Come on then, Liz.
I'd just like to say how pleased I am to see on page 41 and 48 that we are now looking at social value and looking at procuring locally where we can. And I'd really love to see the measurements in place so that we can see how many jobs get created by procuring some of these contracts locally. So I just wanted to say that. And also on, I think it's page 44, I think the ODU is mentioned. And of course, we all know that that's going to change. So I guess we'll just get an update, won't we, to this report when that gets phased out. So, but no, really pleased to see that we're thinking local and we're thinking of procuring locally and adding that social value. Thank you, Clive.
Clive.
Yeah, I'll just come back. Thanks for that, Liz. It's praise indeed, I think, because we have our little tussles, don't we, between yourself and Granton as well. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's always been a bit of a policy of this authority ever since we've been in partnership with people like Woodheads and that we would try and procure goods and services locally to boost the local economy, and also that we do try and get apprenticeships so that our youngsters have got that start in life that they might not have had. So that's good that, it is in there, as you say, pleased to see there. And, we just carry on that good work. And the points you've raised as regards trying to see, as we can, determine how many jobs or whatever is brought in. Maybe, we can have a look at that and talk it through. Thanks, Chair.
We procure for other authorities, don't we?
Yeah, I also get this mixed. So is it Bassett Law? Gedlin or one of my Gedlin, isn't it? And there is negotiations going off at the present time with Mansfield as well to see that. Initially, before we had our own in-house procurement service, it was done through NHS, I believe, which was not so good, to say the least. NHS is good at looking after people, but probably not at procuring things.
Well, Sandy, who's our procurement officer, she worked for NHS, didn't she?
Yeah, I don't know if she did not, but yeah,
she did.
But she's done a good job, and I mean, there is a success. There's a success and a bad news story, I suppose, relevant to that, because as perhaps members can remember, a few years back, we set an apprentice on in the procurement, set up there. and that lad's gone through it all and he's got all his qualifications. Sadly, we've lost him as a result of that. You know, but I mean, we have brought somebody on and give them a start in life that's probably going to set them up for, you know, for the future life in it all. So,
And that's
it's
why,
good and bad news, I
that's why,
suppose.
Clive, we have to pay people right, isn't it? You know, coming back to this procurement. Now, if we're going to, you know, we're trying to procure locally, well, other authorities might want to do the same. Is that built into this?
I can't answer that. I don't know what other authorities do as regards their
I mean, 'cause
procurement.
if I were part of this scheme and I lived in Timbuktu, I'd be wanting to procure locally in Timbuktu, wouldn't I?
I think the procurement, do you mean such as Gedling, local to Gedling?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's on our strategy, so yeah, they'll be able to look in the local area to Gedling.
Right, so, if, yeah, okay. As long as it's fair.
Mm.
Right. Duncan?
Yeah, Clive mentioned about apprentices. Absolutely, we've got an excellent record at this council of trying to help young people in particular through apprentice schemes. And you did mention one, and I know that person went on to, but was it not nice? That's part of the social benefit you get as well, that you are helping the people within the community to find employment. Hopefully, they would remain with us because if they're good apprentices, and we have some really good, excellent ones on that. But also, you know, we also work with the parish councils, and we actually have a policy of looking to see what services that we can provide from this council to help the parishes, because parish councils in the main, they do look outwards to local, like legal and such services as that. So we've got a good record here, and along with that, Rain, and I'm pleased that Liz has mentioned that other point that you did right on mention that. Thank you.
Yeah, and just one final point. I forget her name, I just forgot her name again. Actually, that sends stuff out. Sandy, that's it for a game. She just send basically a near enough a weekly list out to us all really on the procurement where we are. And you know, she does make some profits, as she wants to call it, end day, but certainly we buy goods and services at a far reduced price to what maybe the initial quote had been put in at in it all. So, you know, it's doing good all the way around in it all. It is doing it locally, it is getting apprentices, it is increasing social value and everything. And it's also making a bob or two at the same time, which pleases me on most counts, which is quite unusual.
That's good. It's been moved, it's been seconded.
Councillor McGregor, second.
All in favour? Carried. Move on to the medium term. In fact, now on item 7, Teresa wants to do a presentation, don't you, Teresa? Come on then. Then Clive can come in after and do it necessary. Have I not got a screen that works?
Thank you. Right, sorry. We started working with Budget Manager on revised budgets in September. As usual, we've been through the budgets line by line for General Fund, HRA and Capital Programme. Just to remind you, this is a budget for 21-22 only. We'll bring the future years for the MTFP to you in January. Starting with General Fund, in February, the budget for 21-22 was approved by Council, and we reported that we were estimating a shortfall of 291,000, as you can see in the first column. The current budget is the position we reported at Q2. That's the one in the second column. And the third column, 81,000, is where we think we'll be at the 31st of March 2022. I'll break this movement down over the next few slides. In Q1 and Q2, the council tax increase agreed in March 21 meant we were 110,000 better off straight away. We went through the salary budgets at the end of July, and through maternity leave, vacant posts not filled and restructuring changes, we were able to remove 117,000 from budgets. There were also some small savings and costs we had to add into. Then we started the revised budget process in earnest. Last year, we reduced our income budgets because of COVID, and in some areas, such as the Go Active Leisure Centre and planning fees, we've been able to increase the budgets again based on 8 months of actual income. We've again gone through the salary budgets and removed budgets where we can that aren't going to be used because of maternity leave and vacant posts for the rest of the year. What we've had to add into the salary budgets through, though, is a 1% increase to the pay award because our original estimate is now not enough. We've had a reduction in debt charges and been able to include interest receivable buyers for the Dragonfly loan. And the transfer to reserves have increased to reflect the changes from the revised budgets on this slide. And I'll discuss those on the next few slides. Our share of the business rates pool redistributed growth for 2021 was not known with any certainty because of the delay in the rest of Derbyshire to finish their accounts, so I couldn't include it in the figures for 2021. The figure returned to us as growth was £800,000. In addition, the NNDR1 return, which is calculated in January each year after we've completed the MTFP process, included an extra £200,000 of income that is now extra to our budgets as well. On top of that, the new burdens COVID funding received of £165,000 is to compensate us for the work our staff have done and continue to do in relation to COVID. Although the grant schemes are finished, we continue to submit numerous monthly returns in finance, and revenues and Econ Dev have to submit grant assurance returns also. The benefits team also continue to administer the test and trace system, and they've got to do that until at least March. The collection fund COVID transactions between the reserves and the grant schemes are accounting transactions we're forced to carry out to finish off the funding of the business rate reliefs, which were brought in because of COVID and adversely affected the collection fund. The miscellaneous variances are made up of a number of small increases and decreases across all the departments of the council. What all this means for the general fund is that we're 1.8 million better off after taking account of all the revised budget changes. This is why the increase in transfers to reserves has happened. So that's good. Onto the HRA. There wasn't much movement between the original and Q2 budget, which is the first and second columns. During the revised budget process, we've had to make some changes to both expenditure and income, although we've made sure that the bottom line remains the same. Expenditure has increased by 476,000 and income is reduced by 182,000. And again, I'll go through them on the next slide. Of the 476,000 increase in expenditure, 439 is expenditure which is financed by the HRA reserves. As we did with general fund, we've again gone through the salary budgets and removed budgets where we can that aren't going to be used because of maternity leave and vacant posts for the rest of the year. And again, we've had to add in to the salary budgets a 1% increase to the pay award estimate. You'll all be aware we've currently got more void properties than we'd like, and the officers are looking at ways to improve this position. The council tax liability on the management and short-term void properties is an increase of 122,000. The budget for rental income has been reduced by 278,000 to reflect that the level of voids we currently have is higher than we would like and than we originally estimated. The reduction in the non-dwelling rents income is the garages and garage sites, and some of this is preparation for capital schemes to take place. The increase in income on the housing-related support schemes is due to DCC extending the care line service contract until March 22. And the reduction of 200,000 into the capital reserve is to balance the HRA for the year. While we're working on the MTFP, we'll look to see if this transfer can be added into the New Year's contribution. On to capital. As the slide says, we've looked at the capital programme, and where a scheme is not likely to be spent in 21-22, we've moved the expenditure and finance into next year. The amount we've moved into next year is 4.7 million. A breakdown of the capital programme is shown at Appendix 4 to the report if you wanted to see any more detail. Reserves and balances, both the general fund and the HRA balance are being used this year and next to fund the increase in pension fund costs we put on one side from 1920, and that's why they're not the normal £2 million. A number of schemes have been financed by the transformation reserve during the year with the intention of generating income or reducing costs. The increase in the NNDR growth protection reserve since the original budget is the surplus from 2021 and the extra from the revised budget process. This will be a big help when the government funding reductions eventually take place. So in summary, the position on both our general fund and HRE service is a positive one. The short-term outlook for both is very good. To ensure long-term the HRE business plan is sustainable, we need to get control of the void situation, which, as discussed, officers are working on, with the aim of having reduced voids to 3% by the 1st of April 2022. For the general fund, the big risk is what happens with business rates. When we get the detail of the spending review, which is hopefully next week sometime, we will have more idea of how the government may tinker with the business rate system for this year. And when I bring the MTFP to you in February, we will include estimates of potential extra income from business rates, council tax, and income generating schemes that we're currently working on, such as the crematorium and that kind of thing. You'll then be able to see how our finances will look over the next 4 years. And that's it.
Right, thanks, Teresa. Any clarification from Teresa? You're all fully appraised? Yeah? Thanks, Teresa. Clive?
Yeah, thanks. I'm not going to say a lot, but I'm going to say so much, I suppose, at the end of the day.
You didn't got to, you know, if you don't want to.
Oh, I'm going to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's looking quite good again now. You know, we were a bit worried earlier on and things are coming through. And we just need to keep a, you know, watching brief on it all. Just a few things to pick up on it, really, I suppose, at the end of the day. You know, transformation fund, we've been using that as well. Well, that fund's down now to about £800,000, I think. It's steadily reducing down from about 7 million only a couple of years back in it all. So it is being used, and it is actually being used to hopefully generate income in it all. As Teresa said, we're spending review in November, but we don't get the detail of the spending review until later on this month, and we're not quite sure that detail until we get it. So, you know, we just got to keep a watching brief on that as well to see how that impacts on figures that Teresa's gone through with you this morning in it. You know, there's some good news on table 2 on 1.6 on page 59 of your report, where we've got, you know, increased income from Go Active, we've got planning fees increase, and, you know, 1 or 2 other bits come through in it also. There again, it just shows that after COVID, you know, it does seem as though things are picking up, and if it keeps going that way, it's all going to be a positive impact on MTFP within you know, the set out that we've got in it. It's good that we've made a bit of extra money out on business rates and whatever within it all, because that means we can put it in an NDR growth protection reserve. And as I'm sure you're all aware with this protection reserve is the money we put to one side, so that should we have any hiccups throughout this medium-term financial plan, rather than having to take drastic action in it all, which is not good financial management, we have got a reserve to draw on to be able to top it up and smooth any humps and hollows out within it all. So it does make it that little bit easy for us within it all. Wages, I suppose, you know, we have to just keep us a watching brief on that. Same say, there was only 1% in last year. There is another 1% gone in this year, but as we know, some local authorities are seeing 3% as a norm. It's not always being accepted either at 3%. But a 1% increase on the wage bill is roughly close to about £100,000 at the end of the day. So we know it's an amount we just have to keep watching on and see where we are. But at the same time, ensure we do pay our staff what, as you said earlier, Steve, you know, what they should be getting, and in some cases even more than that for the work and effort that they do put in within it. On to as in revenue account, you've heard this all before. Voids are a bit higher than we're expecting within it all. And we've set it as an estimate of 4% this time around in all. And I know there's work going on in ours, you know, Sandra, Vicky, and everybody in that department is working hard. And there is some new software coming along, so we can try and recover, you know, in a sensible way some of the outstanding debts in it all. We do have to just keep an eye on the income there, because obviously we've got a 30-year business plan on HRA, and we do need to be sure that we can maintain that. And there is, you know, we need to watch, because in the near future, you know, it could be getting a bit close to not supporting what we want to do. Capital programme, well, it's a typical capital programme, really. COVID's not helped it again. Supply materials and indeed labour is meaning some projects are being pushed back into next year when it all. But generally, a capital programme, if everything's going right, tends to slip a little bit, and it does get pushed back. But outline at capital programme is on appendix 4 for you if you should want anything within it all. Overall, I'm feeling quite happy in it all, and I hope Teresa is, and I hope the rest of the councillors at the end of the day. But we do just have to keep our eye on things and keep monitoring on a regular basis, because we are expecting some revenue monies to be coming in from various departments, making money, and others giving money in, you know, on stuff they're making to keep this MTFP balanced. And when we look down, I think it's 25, 26 on MTFP, we could be running into this deficit and this shortfall, which is, could be a considerable amount. But where things are going now, we've got plenty, we've got time, we've got the money's available, and we've got so that bit of time to make any adjustments we need to without particularly hopefully affecting any services or anything else in it. Recommendations are on page 63. There's 3 of them there. I'm happy, same as Teresa, to take any questions. But I'd like to thank Teresa for doing that presentation. Hopefully it does make it perhaps a bit clearer to some members. It's not quite such a grey area at all. I hope it just helps you to understand how we work these things out. So thanks for that, Teresa, and thanks for making my job in going through the report a bit easier. So, say recommendations, page 63. Happy to take questions, Chair. If not, I'd formally move those 3 recommendations.
It's been moved.
Councillor McGregor, second.
Any questions? No questions? You want to say something, Duncan?
Just want to say, excellent report. Same as Clive, I would say thank you, Teresa. You made it quite explanatory in there. I hope that the wider members of the council really understand this report and take the details into account. But the summary says it all for me. There, we've got a very good financial package that we've supported throughout the last 2.5 years. Our growth policy, Chair, is the key to it. And I just want to say I fully support the recommendations.
You got that, Teresa? Yeah. Teresa's kept me appraised for the past 2 years. So I've always had confidence in what we were doing. It's been moved, it's been seconded, all in favour? That's carried. We'll move on to ambition, targets, performance update. Duncan.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to report the Q2 outturns for the Council's ambition targets 2020 to 2024. You'll see in particular there are appendices where you can have a look to see how we've performed. And of course, there's customers, environment, economy at the centre of it. And you will see on the report the reasons for recommendations there. And I just wish to add that this is an information report to keep members informed of progress against the council ambition targets, noting achievements, and we've got some good ones, and any areas of concern. If there's anything matter in here that you wish further there, Kath is here to be able to try to answer any. Kath, if there was any questions asked. With that, the appropriate time, Chair, I will move the recommendations on page 76.
Right. It's been moved, is it seconded? Seconded. Any questions? Anything you want to add, Kath?
No, just to reiterate, it is a largely positive report. Majority of targets are on track. There's been just the 3 that placed on alert that members are well aware of. So there's no surprises in this report. So nothing extra to say to that.
There you go. You see, everything's positive. You all ought to work for BBC. It might make them, because according to BBC, the end of the world is nigh. So, yeah, thanks. All in favour of that? That's carried. Next one is the single equality scheme. That's you again, Duncan.
Thank you. I'll bring Kath in a minute. She'll be able to go into more detail in respect of the report. But the background is the attached appendix contains the second year review of the single equality scheme 2019-2023. The appendix 1 provides some examples of the achievements and progress under the general equality duty. You will see on 3.1 the reasons for the recommendation is quite clear in there. And I will remind on 4.1, it is a statutory requirement to publish information to demonstrate compliance with the general equality duty. I will move the recommendations at the appropriate time when Kath has been able to give you further background into the report. Thank you.
Kath?
Yeah, so just as it covers in the report, we have specific duties as a public authority regarding equalities and the Equalities Act. And one of those is that we have to have our own equality objectives, and they're listed on page 90, so members can see the 4 equality objectives that the council has. The appendix is a way of demonstrating our compliance with all duties. It's not everything that this council does, but it's a very good representation, and hopefully it covers varieties from all different service areas, externally focused and internally focused, some examples for staff as well as the public and visitors. So it's good to see that it's really well embedded, and I think this demonstrates that equality is well embedded at the council, and that we still make some effort with doing a public report and taking it through to members and publishing that. So we still like to give it that level of priority at this council. It's also good to see there's still a lot of training that we do. So we've done equalities refresh training, we do safeguard training, we've done hidden disabilities training. So that's still part of the culture here, that we do the refresh, and that it's also part of staff induction. So I'm glad to see that we still keep that running through at that level. So that's positive as well.
All right, thanks, Kath. So in your opinion, anybody can access whatever they want or need to access, and you know, whether councillors or public or what have you.
Yes, and we also, part of the review is that we look at the complaints that the council receives, and there was only one complaint that was alleging some form of discrimination, which obviously was looked at that time, and that complaint was not upheld. My team do a lot of support around people who want a request for reasonable adjustments or hate crime incidents, or just really if they're just not quite sure where to go for help. So between the contact centres and Bedford with Complaints and my team, and also obviously we've got a lot of frontline staff in housing and people that are out there on the patch, I think we have a very good network of keeping each other up to date and communicating. So I feel that, you know, I would be really disappointed if I felt that anybody would fall through the net at this council.
And they all have access to the form system, so they know exactly where we are, on what track we're on, and so on. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Kath.
Move the recommendation then, Chair.
Been moved, is it seconded?
Second the recommendation.
Any questions? No questions, all in favour? That's carried. We move on to exclusion of the public, item 10. Do you want to take it as read?
I'll move the.
Is that seconded?
Second, Chair.
All in favour? That's carried. We're now in exempt. Item 11, Bulls over